All right. Okay. Hi, my name is David, and this is my presentation for IROS 2021 workshop, RoMaDO-RA. So the title of my talk is Vision-Based Methods to Manipulate Deformable Objects. The manipulation of deformable objects, as I think most of us are aware, is currently a really hot topic in robotics. There has been so many, there are actually, I mean, this workshop is a proof of that, many special issues, special sessions, workshops, surveys, papers, year after year, because it's really an important problem, as we can see in some of these very conceptual application case of scenarios where we can manipulate cables, tissues, fruits, fabrics, and you name it. There's really a lot of work. I here recommend some work by my colleague Ji-Hwan True, who's summarizing some of the findings here. We have also another very recent review by Han Ying in Science Robotics. So, I mean, the work that we do in my group is mostly from the control systems perspective. So we have in some way a deformable object whose shape we can observe and we can quantify with some metric, with some algorithm. With this algorithm, we then can obtain a finite vector representation of the shape or the configuration of that system. With this vector, we can then utilize very standard control theoretic tools so that we can automate the shaping actions for such system. I'm going to be showing some of the results we have obtained in recent years. So really the very first one we did, this was almost 10 years ago, 8 years ago. So we started working on this problem, and the approach we took back then was using a very traditional, I would call visual servoing methodology. We computed very classical geometric features so that we could quantify the shape of these objects. So as we can see in this clip, we could, with several points, compute, for example, angles to compute just curvatures, for example, centroids, you name it. There's really many options that you can use for deforming an object in a desired way. Some of the limitations of this is that, well, by using hard-coded geometric features, the set of manipulation tasks that you can accomplish is quite limited. So you can actually just represent very basic configurations of this object. So this was the very initial approach that we took back then. We then developed a different, conceptually, a different method that instead of using point features and then constructing geometric functions, we instead use the contour of the object. Say, for example, if we can binarize an image from this object, we can then compute or approximate the contour of the object. And what we did here, which was different, is that we approximated the contour, the shape of this object by using Fourier series, and then we use Fourier coefficients as if they were a sort of feedback signal. So we use, well, in this case, in this slides, I'm representing that feedback signal by all of these coefficients, the A, B1 until EF. Those set of finite coefficients, we can use it as a proxy to shape. So we fed this vector as to our control approach, and then we could achieve some of these results that I'm showing. We have extended this basic formulation with many other, let's say, curve descriptors. We recently used NURBS and Bézier functions to also to approximate the observed contour, the observed curve of a cable, in this case, some deformable elastic rod. So we use actually a very similar formulation as the one we did with the Fourier method. And we are, in this case, with both NURBS and Bézier, approximating, or not approximating, quantifying the shape and then servo controlling the shape by using different coefficients. In this case, are not the coefficients from the Fourier series, but these represent well, other type of geometric approximations for curves. This work done by my student Ma Wanyu and Qi Jiaming. So we have also worked with some colleagues in France, with Andrea Cherubini and with Ji-Hong Zhu. And similar idea is to quantify the deformable configuration of an object with a small set of variables, of feedback-like signals. What we did here was, well, a very optimal, say, compression of such signal. We use PCA for this for this work. So what we did is, well, is what we know as eigen decomposition of a data set. So we collected some observations of the object contour, and then we just performed SVD or PCA, which is basically the same. And then we select a number of eigenvectors. I mean, how many did we include it? But that depends on the resolution or the accuracy that you want your system to have. So this number of eigenvectors, in the work that we did, we selected just a few being around 4 or 5, I will remember, and then we project this very high dimensional contour of the object into just a finite number of variables, which in this case represent or characterize the shape of a cable in this case as well. So we have some examples. I mean, I hope we can see this. I mean, we have really evolved in the methods that we started by doing just simple points and geometric features to now using a very generic approach, which is based on eigen decomposition. This is generic because we can actually use it not only for the formable objects, not only for bending tasks, but in principle to guide the configuration and the deforming actions of soft objects and also of rigid objects. So it's quite a general approach, this one that we recently just, this year, work on it. Well, we just published it this year. With both Jeffrey Peng Zhou and Ji-Hong, we continue along similar ideas. Jeffrey started working on developing a method that, but instead of using PCA, principal components analysis, we use well, a very standard autoencoder. The idea that we have here is to use the bottleneck layer as the feedback-like signal. So we're literally using this S vector over there, and we use it as we're feeding it back into our control system, and then we provide a desired target of such S vector. One of the advantages and nice properties that we explore with this work was the design of some sort of almost kind of a planning approach, where we can ensure that the action that we are commanding into the robot, the shaping action, is a connected action in what we call here the shape space. We can see some of the results here in the graph. The red boxes are a series of target shapes which are actually physically not feasible, not possible to do. You have to really bend the object in really strange ways. Whereas if we use our method, which is actually a geodesic-based planning-like approach, we can obtain a series of shaping actions, which will ideally ensure that the object can achieve. We have more work, I mean, similar methods, but I mean, different papers. This one here, we are using contour moments to both characterize and servo control the deformations of cables, of composite, foam, of other mixed rigid. For example, this one is really a composite object. It has some parts which are deformable, some parts are rigid, and some parts even resemble a joint. With this approach, we developed this feature vector composed of some invariant features, some other features which represent the centroid, the position of the object, and another feature which represents the orientation, the principal axis of this contour that we're using. So we also, well, in this particular paper, what we are mostly focusing on is how different control approaches, more specifically sliding mode control approaches, can enable to achieve a very deterministic stability property, so that we can minimize the deformation error in a finite time. So this is mostly the idea with this work, is to assess various control strategies with this new contour moment-based descriptor. And this is also, well, this is a very recent work that we are working with another student here. Well, our idea in this project is to develop a bimanual robotic system that can help us to perform packing tasks. So the type of packing tasks that we want to do, so the type of objects is, well, not necessarily rigid objects, as we can see here in the figure on the right. Some of these objects might be bendable. Some objects might be composite, may have some parts rigid, some parts not rigid. So our intention is to develop a solution which can optimize space. We have done some experiments with this, with my students Mao and Yu and Kai Huo. We're working also with Shenhao Jiaotong. We can see here how our system, by using visual feedback, we can compute an optimal allocation, an optimal arrangement of objects within this more compact box. We intend with this kind of methods to, as I mentioned, to save space, which is a really big problem with, I don't know, when you buy something, for example, for Amazon, you typically receive a very large box. We claim here and propose that we can optimize this process by using robotic systems. More recent work, this is another, well, these are hopefully some papers that will be released soon. So in this other paper, what we are doing is we're also using, well, not cables in this case, these are ropes. The problem that we are trying to address here is we want to, on one hand, we want to exploit environmental contact. And on the other one, we are developing a network that can provide us with some, what we call here, key points. What these key points for the case of manipulating this rope is basically just a discretization of this continuum object. So we are approximating the geometry of this object just by little segments, and the key points simply are joining these segments. So, well, with my student Kyle, we are working on this work, and we also are about to release some papers, and we can see here some of the results. Important here, and this is part of the work that we are following, is we are, our intention is to characterize and exploit the existence of environmental constraints of contact in the environment. We can see here in this video how the robots can locate such constraints, and at the same time design and plan a strategy where the rope can just be rolled around this specific, what kind of obstacles you can see it in a way. We have also this is also a very recent work, and what we are, the idea, what we are trying to do here with my student Peng Zhou is to learn to perform folding tasks for fabrics, for clothes, from human manipulation, from human demonstrations. And we want the robot to extract such information and such skills and then automatically perform it by themselves. So we can see here some preliminary works and how we are using these QR codes to extract poses of the hand, and then we, with the robot, can reproduce them in an autonomous manner. Well, this is pretty all for this short talk that I'm giving today. So, I mean, what can I conclude? We are, as many people right now, working on the manipulation of deformable objects. Our specific direction is on generating effective and efficient representation methods for such deformable objects. We have proposed and validated many of these representation methods, some of them using these very traditional geometric features. We have used Fourier coefficients. We have also used other curve descriptors such as NURBS, Bézier, PCA, contour moments, and this last work that I showed where we use arcs and key points. Our methods are mostly, but not entirely, designed for elastic objects. Well, this just last work is not really elastic objects, so it's also for ropes. Well, we have many preprints, many papers, all our PDFs. You can find it in our lab. And well, this is the end of my presentation. Thank you all, and visit our website. Thanks.